It's lesson 11, hour 2. We've built a simple upload form that seems to work. The one piece we haven't done is we're not actually saving this file anywhere. So we're going to go and make a folder right in the root. I'll make a new directory and I'll just call it uploads. So any file that the user uploads through this page, we want to save it into the uploads directory. So we're going to move the file to the uploads directory is our plan. So we've got a really simple method for doing this in PHP. It's called move uploaded file. And there's two parameters. Where is the file now? And where do you, what folder do you want to put it in? And also what name do you want to give it? So the current location, this is our temp name variable up above. So we're going to take it from our temporary name and we are going to save it to the uploads folder. And now for now, we'll just keep the original name. We won't worry about generating a unique name. We'll do that in the next part. But for now, we'll just keep our name variable that we declared up on line 11. So whatever the original file name is, we're just going to keep it. That would mean right now it would be potentially overwriting another file that already has that name. So here's the new code that I'm just putting below the section we already had. So now I'm going to try and upload some different files and then have a look in the uploads folder and see if those files actually get copied in here. Shrink this down. So if I upload this same file, well, I'll just browse to something else, I guess. So if I upload my file, whoops, one issue with the path, no such file or directory. And that's because I've got a slash here in the front of my path, which I should take out. No leading slash. We're just going to move to the uploads folder with the original name. I'll try that again. And now if I click on my folder, I now have a copy of the image that I uploaded. I'll try and upload maybe something like a PDF or a text file. So again, I'm going to browse. I'm going to pick all files. Pick something other than an image. So I've got a PDF, which I'll upload. And now I've got my PDF file as well. So my move uploaded file seems to work. I now want to put these two pages up on AWS and try them there. So I'm going to connect to the AWS server with FileZilla. I'm going to create an uploads folder on the server, and then I want to upload the two pages we've built today, my upload test and my process upload test, and I want to try the same process on AWS. So the only new things we've done in the 5 minutes we've been back are create a folder called uploads, and we've added line 28, which is highlighted in yellow on my screen. So that takes the file out of cache and copies it into the uploads folder. I'll use FileZilla. So here's my local copy. I have this uploads directory. On the server in the public folder, I don't have an uploads folder. So first thing I'm going to do is create a new folder here called uploads. I now am going to upload the 2 pages we've created today, our upload test and our process upload test. Create your uploads folder on the server. Upload the 2 files that we've written today. Easiest way is if you sort by last modified, your new files will appear right at the top of the list. I'm not going to bother uploading all of my files, just the ones I need. And then I'm going to go back to my browser and I'm going to try my upload test, but this time instead of using localhost, I want to run the pages from AWS. So I'm going to go to lamp.computerstudies, and I recommend you use this domain rather than using the IP address that starts with 15, because this subdomain uses HTTPS. So here's our PHP gaming site, but now I'm going to try upload test. So I'm going to try out the new page that we've been working with. I'm going to click browse. I'll pick a PNG file. And it shows me the name of the file, shows me the size in bytes, different path, different temp path, and it says that it's a PNG. So now I'll open up my uploads folder on the server and refresh it. But you'll notice nothing got uploaded. My file got ignored. I'll just make sure. I'll try another file and just go back. I'll pick a JPEG this time, upload it. And again, I'll right click and refresh the server. Still nothing here. My uploads folder is empty. So those files are not actually getting copied to AWS. They get copied into the temp location, but I can't actually move them into the uploads folder. This code, move uploaded file, it's not working. We're not getting an error, but it's not actually completing. And the reason is that we don't have, by default, our PHP scripts don't have permission to write files to the new files to the server. So we need to change the file permissions on this folder using FileZilla. It's really simple to do. In FileZilla, if you just right-click the uploads folder, in the context menu that appears, you get at the bottom, there's an option called File Permissions. So we want to choose the File Permissions option. So again, just right-click your Uploads folder, choose File Permissions, and you'll notice down here it says numeric value 755, and the public has read and execute permissions, but write is going to be unchecked by default. I want to change that. So if I check write permissions, it then changes the numeric value to 757. Or you could just change the number from 755 to 757, and that will check off the box. If we had subfolders inside, we could also check, doesn't really matter for our purposes, this recurse into subdirectories. So for now, it doesn't really matter. The important thing is that we've checked off this public write permission that by default is unchecked, and that's for security. So now I'm going to click OK. and I'm going to try to upload. Again, I'll just resubmit my form. Go back into the directory. Again, it says it's empty, but now if I right click and refresh, I can see that my file upload now works since I've enabled that permission. If I go and pick a different file, I'll go back to that original PNG that didn't work, upload, refresh, and now I've got both my PNG and my JPEG here. So whenever we're uploading, we're going to need to set that write permission on any directory where we're going to upload files to. So just because something works locally, it won't necessarily work the same way on our live servers. Why it's important we test in both environments. Are there any questions so far? We're only going to, this file is basically complete. I'm going to do one more thing just for demonstration purposes in my file, but I just want to see if there are any questions. I do want to show you the importance of this encoding type attribute because it's a really common oversight. I've done it a million times. So in my form, I still have my input type equals file. I've got all the code for processing, but let's say I forget to include that encoding type attribute. So what happened? I go and browse. I choose a file. And it says undefined. Like my file doesn't exist. So that file that I uploaded, even though I browsed to one, it just gets ignored without the encoding type. And it says no file's been uploaded. So all file uploads, the user will think their file upload is going to work, but the server will just ignore it if our form doesn't support this encoding type. So this attribute is absolutely critical on any form that includes a file upload box. It's not going to work without the encoding type set to multi-part form data. So there's our simple file upload example. It's not really connected up to the rest of our project, but it's functional. So what we want to do now is we want to integrate this file upload. So it's not just a standalone page. We want to integrate it into the rest of our site. So when we go to add or edit a game, we can have a file upload here and we can attach an image onto any game. Now I think, I'm just going to connect into the database for a minute. I think when we set up our games table way back in week 2, I'll just double check it, but I think we already created a column to store the file names. But I'm just going to look in my database to check. Yeah, we do already have a photo column, which is great. So we don't need to modify the database. We've already got a space to store the file name. So our first step is going to be to modify our game details page. We'll need to add the encoding type to the form, and we want to include an input so the user could upload a photo. So let's open up game details in our code editor. So first we'll integrate this when we're adding a new game, and then we'll have to add it when we're editing a game. So my form starts on line 39. We've got our method of post and our action of save game. So we're going to add the encoding type equals multi-part form data into the existing form tag. So this is going to allow this form to convert any uploaded files to binary to transfer them to the web server. So make sure you add this attribute into your form. Then we're going to scroll down below our publisher section. So I've got this closing field set tag down near the bottom. For me, it's on line 90. I want to add a new field set here. And we'll make it the same size as the other field sets. So first we're going to put on a label, and then we're going to put on a file input box that we will call photo, because that matches the column name in our database, all lowercase. So here's our new field set. We'll come back and make some more changes to this for when we're editing a game, but for now, this should be all we need if we want to add a new game, but let the user include a photo. This should be all the changes we need on game details. This field set, as well as adding the encoding type in the form. So I've put in the chat all the code you need to add to this page. So if I reload my page, we've now got a fifth field set with a label that says photo and a file input box. So the work on our game details page for this part is finished. Like I said, we'll come back to it. We'll have to do some more with this later when we're editing an existing game. So what we want to do when we're editing an existing game is we'll also want to display a current photo if there is one, and allow the user to then change it if they want to. But we'll just deal with adding a new game right now. And you will need to log into the site to access this page. Remember, we put a security check on it last week. So you can use, I'll put it in the chat, the credentials we set up, user@gc.ca, and test1234 with a capital T. So make sure you're logged in, because when you're logged out, you don't see that link to the game details page. So make sure you log into the site. So we're going to need to modify a bunch of code on save game to check and see if a file got uploaded. And if it did, we'll want to check that it's an image. We'll want to give it a unique name. We'll want to save the file. And then we also want to include the file name when we're inserting our game to the database. The photo won't be null. Before we write that code, I also want to make a folder where these game images will get uploaded to. So I'm going to make two new directories, one inside the other. I'm going to make a new directory in my root. I'll call it img, which is where we would store any images. Now, right now, we don't have any images for the site. And then inside here, I'll make another directory, a subfolder of img that we'll maybe call games or game uploads. So this folder will store any images we attach to the game records. So this would be separate from any other images we use on the site, like a logo or anything else. So this is where we want to store the pictures of each game inside of img and game uploads. I've also put on Blackboard a zip file with all of the images that match the games in my database. Now, you may have different games, so you don't have to use these images if you don't want. If you want to, they're here. So in lesson 11, there's an item that says photos to download for today's lesson. And all of these images are from Wikipedia. So I'm going to actually put a link on my homepage to this as well, or a reference to Wikipedia. So you can download this zip file. It'll download games.zip, and then if you extract these, it'll give you a folder with these images that I've taken from Wikipedia. David, how are you trying to load the game details page? Are you clicking the add a new game link? If so, you'll want to check the href property of this link. Probably just a broken link or an issue in the href property. Yeah, make sure in this link, right, there shouldn't be any slash. These files are in the same folder, so it's a local path. So the href should just be direct to gamedetails.php, as you can see on my screen. Yeah, we don't want you don't want to hard code the path, because as soon as you upload to the server, that path is going to break. Okay, oh, so you're saying you're trying to go there directly and it won't load? You're getting a 404 page? It's just blank. Okay, so there's got to be an error on the page. If all your code is here, are you logged in? Are you logged into the site? Make sure you're logged in as well. David, I may have to look at it after. I think I need to see it. It doesn't, that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. Okay. So we've added our encoding type to our form. We've added our input to the form, and we've set up this folder where we can upload the images. And if you want my images, they're here. I'll maybe just open up my index page for a minute as well. And I'll add just a note, all game images sourced from So I'll just put on this note that the images are from Wikipedia. In my home page, good idea. We should use open source images unless we're paying for them, and we should be saying where they're from. So I've just added this to the index page. If you aren't using those images I put on Blackboard, then don't worry about it. So now we want to write the code on our save game page that will check, did a file get uploaded? And if so, is it a valid image file? Can we name it uniquely? And then we want to include that file name as part of our game record as well. And we also want to save that image into game uploads. So we'll open up save game. And after all the validation we're already running, but before this if OK is true, we'll deal with our photo upload here. So we'll initialize a variable called photo, and we'll set it to null. So we're going to assume originally there is no file being uploaded. So we're going to check the files called photo. Right? If this is not null, that means the user uploaded something. Actually, you know what? Let's see. Photo equals. First, we'll get the name. We're not really interested in the size. We're going to get the temporary location, just like we did before. And now we want to check that this file, we're going to use that MIME content type method we used before to make sure it's either a JPEG or a PNG. So we can say type equals so this is going to tell us what the file type is. So if type is not an image slash PNG and type is not an image slash JPEG, it's got to be one of these two. If it's not this and it's not this, we want to throw an error. And in this case, we'll say OK is false. So we're not going to save this game if the user has uploaded some kind of file and that's not a JPEG or a PNG. They've attached an Excel file or a Word document or a PDF as the image, we're not going to allow that. If the file type is good, I'll put all this code up on Pastebin in a minute. Valid, move. Is that what we called the folder? Oh, game uploads. So we're going to move it from the temp location to the IMG game uploads folder, and we're going to append on the name. Now we'll need to do one more thing with it, but we're going to try this out. So here's the new code that goes at the end of our current validation. So before this line, if OK equals true. I will put this up on Pastebin. So before we connect and save to the database, at the bottom of the validation that we already have, if a file got uploaded, get the name, get the temporary location of the file, make sure the file is a PNG or a JPEG, and if it's not, show an error. If the file is valid, we're going to move it to the IMG game uploads folder. Now this will save the file to the server, but we also need to include the name of the file in our database. And then we're also going to have, so let's try that. Once we can save it to the database, this is the hard part. Saving the photo name to the database should be simple. We're also going to have to deal with duplicate file names, but we will come back and do that after. So this is basically the same code that we wrote on our first example. The only difference is in the first example, we didn't actually check the file type. We didn't really care what the user uploaded. And again, if we're only going to allow PNGs and JPEGs, we probably should add that as the accept property in our file input. So I'll maybe just add that like we did on our previous page. In our photo, we'll accept PNG, JPG, and JPEG. So I'm going to add that attribute to my file upload. Again, users can get around it, but at least by default, when they browse their computers or their device, they're only going to see these files. So it will increase the chances that we get the right file type. Once this is all done, we now need to modify this code. We want to leave everything that's here, but we're going to add the photo onto it. So I'm going to add on, when we're inserting, we're also going to insert a value into the photo column. So we're going to add that column onto the list of columns, and we're going to add one more parameter into our list of values. And then we need to bind or fill this photo parameter. So we're going to fill the photo. I think we allowed 100 characters. So I've modified line 82 and I've added line 93. So I've modified 82 and 83 as well as line 93. So we're going to process the file upload above. We're going to copy that file to our IMG game uploads directory. And then we're going to include the name of the file when we save to the database as well, because we need to attach an image to this particular game. It's not enough to just save the file here. We need to know which photo belongs to which game. I'm just going to give this a try. We may need to modify it a little bit. And then we're also going to have to deal with the issue of duplicate file names. Because the way we've written the code right now, if we have two files that get uploaded with the exact same name, the second upload is going to overwrite the first upload. The original file is going to get wiped out. So we'll get this working. Once this is working, we can add that unique naming algorithm. Okay, so again, I've modified the SQL and I've added the parameter on line 93. I'll leave this up again for another minute before I try it out. I will be pushing this up to GitHub for your reference again shortly as well. So let's give this a try. I'm going to add a new game. And I'll just pick a random image. I'll pick one of my beer logos for now. And save. So it's saved the record. What about the image? Did anything actually happen with it? Well, let's look. First, I'll go into my folder. In IMG and game uploads. Okay. Folder's empty. So it didn't quite work. What about in the database? Okay, so it saved the name to my database, so that's good. But something didn't quite work when I actually tried to save the file. So let's see why. IMG, oh, because my path is wrong. My file name should be game-uploads. And when I called move uploaded file, I didn't name the folder properly. Should be game-uploads. So I'm going to correct that mistake and try another one. Delete this. So when I look in the database, it shows me my file name. And when I look at my folder in Windows, my file now got uploaded correctly. Now we can't see the photo anywhere in the application, so we'll need to deal with this a bit later. But the other problem is if I create another image with this name and upload it, it's going to overwrite this one. So we're going to need to modify the code here before we create this final file. We want to uniquely name it. So what we'll do, I'm going to upload everything to GitHub now. When we resume, we're going to need to generate a unique name for each upload. We want to show the images in our game list if we have one. We also want to show the images when we're editing a game, and as well allow the user to browse and upload and update the image if they want to change the image. So we should be able to do all of those things before we wrap up today. Okay, so I'm going to push everything up and stop the recording. So you'll be able to check GitHub as reference to get caught up if you need, and we'll come back and finish this off at 1 o'clock.